guys, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and if you have watched our training on why does my horse buck, you will have heard me talking about horses that work with our posterior pelvic tilt because they have been flexed into contact instead of the frame being the end result of good postural alignment. So there's quite a few things that we're looking for here, but if you have a look at the way that Hunter's hindquarter is lifted up through here and then his back is coming down, this is what we call hollowness. So the other thing that we're looking at is that when he's traveling, you can see him pushing out from behind with his hindquarters, which means that his balance is distributed into his shoulders, and that means that his underneck is what is holding his balance. So his underneck muscles and his chest and his shoulders is holding his balance, and this is called on the forehand. He is hollow not because he is pole high and not round through the neck, but because he has that posterior pelvic tilt and rotation of the pelvis instead of transferring his weight into his haunches and sitting deeper into his hocks. You can see how straight that is. When our horse transfers weight and sits into their haunches, then their back comes up, and then that's when they can work properly through their back, through their top line, into contact, and that should be what creates roundness. If we were to put pressure on his mouth here and just tuck his nose in, that will not correct the pelvis, it will not correct his balance, it will not correct where his weight is distributed, it will not correct his hollowness. It won't correct his balance being on the forehand, and it won't undo his neck being what is holding his underneck, holding his balance. What it will do is flex him away at the third vertebrae, put him more onto the forehand, and create more posterior pelvic tilt, which is going to make him more prone to bucking, especially in canter transitions and jumping, poles, anything that is going to require him actually using his back instead of it being hollow. So as we watch him work, you'll be able to see him, flexing into contact, and we can have a look at why this is detrimental to their physical development. And my computer, of course, is going to freeze momentarily. There we go. I'll get his sneezes out. So if you have a look here, you can see that where like his croup is popping here and where there's like tension through his hips here, that is what is making his back hollow, and this is what that posterior pelvic tilt looks like. If we start transferring the weight into the hindquarters, you will get to see the hock flexion. We'll see if it's going to come up. No, he doesn't really have any. And so again, we can have a look at where you can see his balance is on the forehand. He's pushing out from behind, and the balance is in his underneck, and the croup is popped. That is what we're looking at for that posterior pelvic tilt, is that the pelvis is rotating under, and as a result we're not getting hock flexion. And if I were to tuck his nose in, it's just going to flex here instead of coming up through his back properly. So there's exercises that we do to try and get him working over and through his back correctly, but everything that we're doing in the saddle should be for postural alignment and weight transferring into the hindquarters. And then we're asking our horses to work into and seek contact. If we can just have a look at when he pops his nose down. So you can see there when he does put his nose down, the flexion is not at the pole. Pole is not the highest point. His nose is tucking behind the bit. He's still on the forehand, and he's flexing away at the third vertebrae. So if, like a lot of riders, you've been working towards a frame for a really long time and you get this moment of time and it feels amazing because your horse is suddenly not resisting your hands anymore, you might get this stride and think, oh my goodness, I finally have a working frame. But what is actually happening is that your horse is just starting to release and let go of the contact. And so then the next stride, before we go into next stride, so you can see where his balance is on the forehand. All of his weight is distributed into the forehand and his bum is kind of just bumping around up here, up in the air. And the energy is going out behind. So when he's pushing off the hind legs, the drive from the hind legs is actually transferring more weight into the forehand because the hindquarters are pushing out behind instead of him sitting and transferring weight into the hindquarters. So if we look at the next stride where his head is going to come up, his head has come up because if he had stayed down there, he's going to fall over his face and fall over the forehand. He had to pick his head up to get his shoulders out of the road because the frame was not helping his balance. It was just him a moment in time where he was releasing some tension through his neck from carrying himself like he is. So what you might feel if you've been training, you can see the way that he like wiggles his ears out. That's the release of the tension through the top line. So if we watch, he does a little wiggle, then he releases his neck. And so we have that moment in time where he's like softening his crest a little there, but he's not ready to hold it yet. So if you've been training and you're getting like this step of softness, you'll be like, oh my goodness, I finally have it. But you have it for a stride and then you have fear that you're never going to get it again. We can have a look as he goes over this pole. That pop means that he can't use his back properly. So what we're looking at is like if you're getting this moment of time and they come into the frame and you're like, oh my goodness, I finally have it, and then it's like gone the next stride, you're gonna like get real worried with yourself. Am I ever going to get this again? Am I ever going to be able to do this? I'm not a good enough rider. And so then what ends up happening is we go try and like use the contact to keep their head down there so that we can show that we have a frame and we can get a frame. But at that stage, it's not beneficial to the horse. It's detrimental to them because when you're tucking their nose in and you're getting that softness in contact, all they're doing is flexing at the wrong part of their neck. And the lightness is coming because they're coming behind the bit, not because they're actually like looking for your hands, seeking the contact and then stacking their posture into the contact correctly. So we're getting that moment of like just tuck, but that's not true lightness. Lightness is in dance, lightness is in movement, lightness is in the way that you carry yourself. So if I were to go and do dance lessons tomorrow, I would like thump around the dance floor like a hippo because I have no grace. And so I would have to like train as a dancer for a very long time to be able to hold myself in a way that I can like cover the ground with lightness. So what we actually want to be achieving from our rein contact is not the flex and not the give to the contact, but actually transferring their balance and transferring their weight into their hindquarters when we apply bit pressure. When we can associate the rein pressure to asking our horse to sit rather than asking our horse to give and flex at the bit, then we're going to be able to have a much better conversation with our horse about how they are going to work with good posture and postural alignment so that we're not getting the pelvic tilt and then them flexing at the third vertebrae and still staying hollow through their back, but they're actually coming up over their back through to contact. So if you want to get our free training that starts introducing some of these concepts and how we can get off the drilling the 20-meter circle and actually using exercises that are going to complement and enhance our horse's posture, check out our free course www.equestrianmovement.com/stop drilling circles. And if you are looking for, you don't think that that's really why your horse has issues with bucking and you're looking for some other troubleshooting, check out our other video training on why does my horse buck, and we go into a lot deeper about other reasons why your horse might be bucking with regards to whether your horse is actually allowing you into their back, because sometimes our horses are just ejecting us because they don't want us to ride them. Until next time, happy trails.